destroying Lego and destroying people's creations. I hate that. But for the sake of the show, I get why they did what they did. Um, but I can tell you right now, man, it's. I mean, it is what it is. The episode, because they have to destroy people's builds and people put hard work into it. Um, like I mentioned last night in my initial reaction to the episode, I thought that it was fun for what it was. I thought the winners of the challenge won. I thought the right team won because of what they built, and I understood as to why the team that went home, why they went home. So I understood why. And it wasn't really it wasn't a thing that you could go back and debate. I don't think you probably could. But me honestly, I thought it was okay. Marilyn, good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, I thought it was okay. The way that it happened. I like I said, I don't. Um, One second. Yeah, I don't like the premise of that. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. So, Remy, good to see you, bro. Yeah. So I didn't too like the premise of blowing up stuff, but I understood it. Like I mentioned, it was for us. It was three different ways that we blew up and destroyed our creations on that episode. The bat with Will, dropping it from the ceiling with Will, and then the explosions. I think doing explosions. I think that's pretty fun. It's different. It's definitely different the way you do explosions. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'm gonna see if Mark is ready because I know that me and Mark. Um, okay, so I know that me and Mark we were thinking about doing like these type of recap specials where we just talk about the episode and all that stuff. Gustavo, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. So I'm giving some people a little bit of time just to come on in and stuff like that. But for those who are here, did you get a chance to see episode 2? What you thought of episode 2 of Lego Masters? Let me know what you think. Um, yeah, Julia, we did take pictures. They took tons of pictures before they tore it apart. So I know for our episode, when we were done with all of our builds and we left the room, they cleaned up the room and then they took our hero shots of our build. So we had to roll them to the side of the studio, and they rolled it in the front. They took pictures and everything like that. They swiveled and everything like that. They did all that cool stuff with it, and then it was time for us to blow it up. So the episode that you're watching, it wasn't like we built it and then we rolled right into the demolition. So there was some time in between. There was definitely some time in between. I love. They love that challenge. They think legally include in every version of Lego Masters. I know, Remy. I don't understand why they would think that's a cool episode. I mean, I get it. They have to roll with it, but I don't know why they think that's a cool episode. Destroying people's projects. Like, yeah, there's kids that's gonna enjoy it for that aspect of like, whoa, explosions of Lego. But to be honest with you, is not that great. I hate episodes like that. I hate when people put all their hard work into their builds and then boom, you know, it's not even worth it. Jenny, what's going on, sis? Good to see you. Good to see you. Long time. Uh, Question: why did Lego Masters air so late? COVID. COVID. That was the reason. That is the reason as to why. Um, that's the reason as to why it aired so late. Um, Usually, it's supposed to air. Well, our season aired in February, but because of COVID restrictions, a lot of things got pushed off. So they decided to air it in summer, which I think is probably better because Kids are coming out of school, so kids will be able to kind of stay up later to watch it, which is, I think, is pretty cool. So I think it's pretty cool if they do that, to be quite honest with you. So, why not? I think that's all right. It's probably the producer's ideas. Yeah, I think so too. It probably is the producer's ideas to do these shows that like to do the show and have the explosions as part of the episode. I still think that's kind of weird, in my opinion. I just hate seeing things blow up. I hate seeing people's good creation gets destroyed and torn down. But I do like to see the way that they build it, right? So that's always a real cool thing. Yeah, Red Monkey. Yeah, just about a year, just about. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. So Remy, you're touching on something that I mentioned yesterday, and I don't, I'm just gonna roll into it right now. I I do have issue. I do take issue with the fixed build space that they're giving them. Um, I think that in order to really maximize your creativity, I feel as though that you have to open it up so that way the creators can have more space to create. I think when you give them a fixed space, you isolate their space. They only have but so much to create on that space. And I mean, those two, I guess those two challenges would would require that because you need a float. You need a float, and floats are usually a certain size, and then you could build it to the scale of how you want it to be. That's one. And then when it comes to the space of the actual build itself for yesterday's episode, I didn't understand as to why they chose that type of space. I mean, I get it. They had their characters here, what's going on, Brickman, what's going on, Emily. I understood why they had the space, right? So you had your characters right here, and just based on the optical illusion or your peripheral or your looking at things from I can't think of the word, but your perspective, you're fixed on a certain item right here, and then everything else is behind it. So it gives it like a forced perspective as to why you would build everything on the bigger section, and then as you're coming in on the triangular shape, you're focused on that one main character. I get that. I thought that was really clever, but the space, I think the fixed space can kind of hurt the creators on how they create, and it kind of keeps everybody on the same playing field because like for our season, the first two, I'm trying to think, I think the first two projects that we did were not on a fixed space. So like the Green Park theme park, we took a section of the park and we designed that entire section, and that was a pretty big section. And then when it comes time for the Space Smash challenge, same thing. We kind of had to just create whatever we want to create. We didn't have that fixed space, and I think the fixed space does limit the creator's way of creating, and it could hurt the show. Hopefully they don't do that. I don't think they're going to do that going forward. I think the next few challenges are going to be more free flowing. Like they'll give them what they got to do, and then they'll go ahead and they'll build it. I think that's what we're probably going to get. However, I'm still on the fence when it comes to the fixed space. But let's talk about some of these builds. Now, forgive me, I'm not going to have all of the names of everybody as far as who built what, but I'm going to describe what they built and what I thought of it. So let's talk about the winning team. The winning team was Lauren and Brian, the siblings. So siblings are taking over. I feel good about that. So their build was that frog. Now I am a big fan of characters. Our season, we had a few character builds that really took everything and blew it up, which is really, really fun, right? We had our Legor, we had the sacrifice with that big giant green squid, so there were characters that we remember from the episode based on how well the creators sculpted those characters. I thought the frog was done brilliantly. I really enjoyed that frog, especially the tongue. Now the tongue, parts of that tongue was made with the backs of minifigs, the legs. And I thought that was just super clever. You don't see that a lot, right? You don't see that a lot. And it was something that looks to this effect. Because if you take the legs, you can create a curvature. So like as the tongue is sticking out, you have a bit of a curve that you can create, right? You can create that curve in the tongue to make the tongue go like this. Marilyn, good to see you. To make the tongue go like this. I thought that was very ingenious what they did with that. I love seeing things like that. Taking something that has one purpose and repurposing it for something totally different. Perfect. I loved it. So seeing that really fun. Seeing that come to life was really, really cool. Now, another thing that I remember from that particular build was their ladybug. So they have a story already with this ladybug, and the ladybug is trying to get away from the predator, which is a frog, which is natural. The detonator, yes, you saw that too, right? That little small detonator that they made right next to the ladybug was perfect. It told the full story. And Amy said something on the episode that I was happy she said this, but I was also a little upset because it reminded me of our episode, because she says she likes things that have a full story, right? It has to have a full story, beginning, middle, end, right? And I hate that our build for that episode had the full story, but you guys didn't see that full story because they didn't tell it. Our story was there was a planet which core was about to erupt and about to destroy all of them. And then we had space people or humans come to the planet to try to save the planet. And as they're trying to save the planet, they're trying to put as many aliens on the spaceship as they can. The spaceship was connected to our planet. Will threw the planet down. The planet destroyed, and we were able to run over and pick up our capsule, our spaceship with our space people inside. So we had a full story. We had the drama, we had your characters, and we had an ending. No other team had that. And they didn't show any of that on our episode, which was cool. It is what it is. Extraordinary. How you doing? But like I said, it is what it is. When it comes to this episode, I thought every team had a good story. Their stories made sense according to the characters that they had. But the winning team, their story was so delightful. It's so cute because they had the character. The character blows up the frog, and the way the frog exploded, that was just perfect. They put the charges exactly where they needed to put the charges to have that croak, and then kaboom. And that slow motion kaboom was just so awesome. And I know that when we did our season, and they did demolition for ours, when they slowed it down, it was like, they got to go that way. If they're going to do shows like this where you're going to blow up stuff and break stuff, go that route. That route's much more better. The runner-up, Now the runner-up for that challenge, they did the music. They had the violinist, and I thought that was really really cool because the violinist that they had, that's not even a superhero. Like, what kind of story can you tell? And I like the fact that they chose to do this story where it's a factory, and there's music notes, everything like that. And he has to play at a certain frequency to create the explosion. And when they did the explosion, and all those music notes were flying in the sky, that was just so amazing. I love the way they did that. I love the way everything was just flying and soaring through the air and everything like that, and how certain music notes were still sitting up. It's all about presentation as well. Whenever you're building with Lego, whenever you're doing these types of cool and awesome projects, you want to make sure that you're telling a story, but you also want to make sure that your story stands out. And I thought that was really, really cool to make the story stand out. What's going on, Phil? What's going on, Brickman Mosaic? Good to see you guys. I thought that was really, really good. Now, moving on to some of the other teams, and I'm just going to highlight a few of them. And this episode, you're going to notice that they didn't really highlight a lot of the team's builds, because they want to give the other teams a chance to kind of showcase themselves, like the two moms. And again, I'm bad with names. I'm still learning the names. Let me do this, only because I want to put some respect on everyone. Give me 1 sec. I have the names up so I can tell you the names. All right. Okay, there we go. Boom. All right, there we go. All right, no, thank you. All right. So there we go. Susan and Jen. There we go. Susan and Jen. So Susan and Jen's build, and I like how they painted their story as a comeback story, right? Because you like that. And it was weird that they said that. They said it like that, like everybody loves a comeback story. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how you painted the episode for them. You know, they were in the bottom two last episode, so it was very, it was a very scary episode for them, I'm sure. And then, they have a chance to really show that they're able to bounce back. And I love the fact that, they talked about a little bit of the parents of their families. So how I believe it was Jen's family, her son, who's a cancer survivor. So that hit me close to home. That touched me right here, because I was like, oh man, I know exactly what that's like, obviously. And to hear it from a mother's perspective, you get a little bit more from it. I thought what they did was really good. I thought their build was very fun. And that's what you want. You want it to be fun, and you want it to stand out. And I thought they did a great job in standing out and definitely coming back from last week's. And that was Dave and Rich. That was the runner-up. That was Dave and Rich. So they did great. Now, Caleb and Jacob, they did a pretty fun build. But again, because of the episode was so jam-packed, in these type of episodes, it's really hard to focus on the builds, focus on the people, and then focus on the end result of the builds, because you have to go through each build and do each explosion for the build. So it was kind of tough, but I thought Caleb and Jacob, they did a really cool build. It was really fun, really consolidated and isolated, which is really cool. Let's see. Maria and Philip, the married couple, I thought they did a great job bouncing back this week. I thought they were focused. I thought they gave a really good story and made a lot of sense. I enjoyed it. I thought they did great with that. Moto and Paris, I thought they did good too. Really couldn't tell a lot of what they did, because again, they have to break it down so minute, and they have to show so much, because there's 12 teams and you only have an hour of TV to do all those things. So a lot of people fell through the cracks, which is it happens. Certain teams were highlighted last episode, which is cool, and certain teams are going to be highlighted this episode. And as the episodes continue and as the eliminations happen, you're going to get a little bit more from some of the teams and stuff like that. So there's time to get invested with the teams. Natalie and Michelle. So Natalie did something that I thought was awesome because she definitely came through and took Will Arnett's job with the jokes, and I thought that was really cool. And I think that if they continue to make that her kind of her niche, she's definitely going to be breakout star and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool that Will Arnett stepped to the side and gave her that spotlight. That was really cool. And their build as well, very colorful. It made a lot of sense. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their build as well. Sharita and Randall, they had a pretty good explosion with the dust bursting out of the came out of the towers of the castle. Very nice touch. And again, when it comes to those explosions, they have to strategically put those explosions in the areas that the builders say that they want it. So the builders have to create their build, not only create it so that it aesthetically looks good, but they also have to create it in a way that it guarantees the best bang for the buck, so to speak. So you also keep that in mind, because the demolition crew is only told, hey, where do you want your explosions? Oh, we want them here and we want them here. So they're the ones who have to say that. And just to go back to Caleb and Jacob, they did their alien invaders, and I like how they had their flying saucers in different sections and had the explosions happen in time so that one exploded and then the next exploded. I thought that was very good. That was genius. Go to Mark and Steven. So Mark and Steven, their build, which I thought was really good, and I'm going to talk about something a little bit later that I see where they're going, and I'm going to share my thoughts on that real soon. But I love their build. Zach and Tim were the other two. I don't know where Mark is. I think Mark got his days mixed up. I don't know, but I'm gonna rock out anyway. So, but good question. So when it comes to Zach and Tim, they went ahead and they did a cool build. I love the idea for their build with the big pow in the back of it. It was unfortunate that it did not happen the way they wanted it to, and I kind of understood why. The explosions were perfect where they had it. It's just that it was a little bit too far from the actual build, because I think what they were trying to go for is to have those explosions go from one side to the next side and then have it kind of trigger that fall away wall to just kind of boom and then show that explosion, which I thought that would have been great if they were able to pull off. But, unfortunately, they were not able to, and they were one of the teams in the bottom too. Zach and Wayne. I thought Zach and Wayne's build was very not bulky, but it was very loud. What I mean by loud, I couldn't really tell what I was looking at first. I mean, I get where they were going with it, but it was really bulky, and I was like, I can't really tell what it is. And then when the camera kind of angled it and kind of zoomed around and everything, I said, oh, okay, I see it. And then when the explosion happened, I was like, perfect. The explosion happened, and it exploded the squid or the monster in just the right spots. So you had that great explosion. You had those great effects happen on it. I thought that was really good too. But I would say it was. I wouldn't say it was a step down from what they did, but I would say that it was. I don't know. I guess it could have been more polished, in my opinion. I still thought it was great, but I thought it could have been polished a little bit. Okay, and last but not least, let's go to Jack and Dawn. So Jack and Dawn, they did their build, which was the bank robber, making out with the jewelry and stuff like that. Um, I thought aesthetically, like looking at everything, I thought they did a great job. I thought that their build was concise. I thought their build made sense. I love how they made the parking lot. They made the telephone wires. They made it looked like a scene from a town. Like if I was to go to like a small Midwestern town, um, with a population of like 500 people, that's exactly what I would have saw. Um, I would have saw their town looking like that. I thought it was really really good. Now the explosion, unfortunately, did not explode everything, right? And Jamie says something like, you want to try to, we want you to build something that looks aesthetically pleasing, but we also want it to explode and give a great explosion. And they built something that was really good, but it didn't explode. And there's because of the fact that they use overlapping as their technique. So a lot of their builds, a lot of their structure stayed together. The explosion wasn't powerful enough to break it in pieces. Now, if they chose to do a different technique, same technique, but maybe choose to substitute some of the masonry bricks with other types of like cylinder, maybe even the cylinder bricks and stuff like that. They were able to do that every so often. It would have created a flexible explosion so that the pieces go flying even more. Um, I thought it was really really good. The judges did give a good point, and when I heard their point, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of dead area, and that's one thing you want to make sure. And this is just for anybody who's looking to get into Lego Masters. Um, Dead space is a killer. Negative space is a killer onto your project because you want to make sure you're filling in all of the open spaces. That is why I would say that the space that was provided to the builders, I think that can hurt them. I think some of them hurted because of that. Because you're creating this space and you're limited to just the space given. Now, if they were able to build and build freely, I think that would have been a different type of build. Because then like all that empty space, they could have killed that empty space with focusing more on the character as opposed to all the other stuff. Excuse me. Um, that's why I said I understood as to why Dawn and Jack went home. I understood as to why they did not choose them to stay on, and it wasn't because they didn't. And this is stuff I hate. I hate this about Lego Master. Um, you know, the teams have to go based on the challenge. It's not about their building technique because nobody builds Lego for this episode. Nobody builds Lego so that they can be destroyed. Nobody does that. Any mock builder, you're not building your Lego mocks so that it can eventually be destroyed by some way or some demolition or something like that. Nobody builds like that. Everybody builds their mocks so that they could be on display, so that other people will be inspired to either build something similar or to be proud of the work that you've accomplished as a builder. The problem with this particular episode and these type of episodes with Lego Masters is that you create something that's aesthetically pleasing. You put a lot of hard work and effort only for it to be destroyed. And it's like, why even bother putting in all that work? If you're just gonna blow it up. Rockfile, what's good, man? What's good? Um, that was one thing I detest. I hated. And it's because of those things that people go home because their bills didn't destroy. Nah, I have a big problem with that. I hate that. It's just not fair. It's not fair. Um, and I'm speaking from experience, obviously. Me and my brother went home. Rock, let me know when you're ready, man, because I'll bring you in a little bit and you can give me your thoughts on last night's episode. Me and my brother went home from Lego Masters because of a cut in half challenge. A challenge where we had to build something on something else that's not Lego. Name another besides Lego Masters. Have you ever seen? I've never seen that at a Lego convention. I've never seen that with Lego themselves, where they would have you build something on from the side or attached to something that is not Lego. Never seen that, and I thought that was just. I thought that just it sucked because we went home for that reason, and I thought that people going home for not for their builds, but because their builds didn't do a certain thing that the judges wanted. I think that's crap. But that's just my opinion. Yeah. If I was to choose, if I had out of those 12 minifigs, I think that mad scientist. I probably would have went with that. I thought that was really cool. I think the mad scientist is a cool little build that I can definitely think about stuff to build around that. And Dawn, if you're still here, Dawn, let me know because I'll bring you in too if you want to come in. If you want to come in. So just let me know. Just tell me in the chat and I'll definitely bring you on. Because I do want to get your perspective. You guys were on the show. You guys were experiencing it on the show. What's up, man? Randall, good to see you, bro.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm just kicking it. I was supposed to be doing this with Mark, but Mark is busy, I'm assuming. So I guess I'll have to catch up with him another time. But good to see you nonetheless.
Yeah, I knew you were going in on the episode, so I figured I'd wait and eat dinner while you spit the reel before I came in.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Yeah. So listen. First off, that Kanye West bear in the background, if that is the Kanye West bear, that's dope. I know y'all was talking about him. But anyway, let's get back to this. So you were there, obviously. You watched the episode. It's always interesting, at least like from for people who've been on the show and then watching the show to see what got cut and what stayed in. So it's always interesting to see where they're going as far as the narrative of the story. So tell me what you thought about your build on TV, how it looked. Did they present it in the way that you guys wanted it to be presented? And what you thought about your explosion.
Wow, okay. Right into it. Number one, the build that we put together was more indicative of our discord rather than our skill. There was a lot that was not present in the episode, which made us look better. I know I got questions from a few people, from a few of my friends about it, and you kind of alluded to this yesterday when you were doing your non-spoiler review, and they caught it. I was like, oh, you caught that, huh? And then so I proceeded to kind of tell them what was going on behind the scenes. I will admit that. So that's the first thing. So the bill was indicative of our discord, which means that I would not discount anybody that said they weren't a fan of that build, because I think that was how we felt about it.
Right.
As far as the explosion goes, I think seeing it in the episode as opposed to seeing it on set,
right.
That was another case in which the explosion, I was too in my head and too disappointed in the build at the time to really look at it on set, and so seeing it run it back on the episode, I was like, oh, okay. There are some things that it wasn't until we got to the end where I was like, oh, I totally forgot to do such and such in a few places to make the explosion bigger and better. And so that's really what I was comparing it to, the ideal where I knew that I should have done some things instead of, what was presented.
Right.
So you were kind of talking about this too right before I got on this live.
Yeah.
In that there are some like on the first season, right? Like you were saying, like there are challenges like this that can be left up to chance in a way can be distasteful because it's not entirely based. It is based on skill because in this challenge you had to build to break, but nobody's ever built to blow up before. So you're doing a lot of guessing and finding out, which I guess that's why they call it a challenge.
Right.
But you run the risk of, everybody's talented. You run the risk of something happening that is not representative of people's skill. Being on the platform and having something like that happen, and then to have people react to it and say, "Oh, well, they may not be a good builder." No, these are just the circumstances under which we're building, which we do not build under at the crib.
Right. Exactly. That's the one gripe I have with this particular type of episode with Lego Masters. That's why I kept mentioning this has nothing to do with the builders. Nothing to do with the builders, because on our season it was the same thing. Like they kept mentioning that and emphasizing that, you're building it, but you're building it so that it can be destroyed, and you want it to have the best sort of explosion. And the entire time building it, me and my brother, we tried to do as little as possible as far as for it to, we wanted it to break, but we wanted it to break in a certain way that, okay, well, it's not the entire thing is going to be lost to an extent. So we tried to do that. And then other seasons with Lego Master, they do the same thing when they have a challenge similar to this. I just don't like it. I think that it's a disservice to the builders, to the artists creating their art. Now, there's some art that's meant to be destroyed, and that's the intention of the artist. But this is not the intention of the artist getting onto the show to say, okay, well, I can't wait to build something to watch it explode. I'm sure that's not the intention. But it is for TV. Children do like, and some adults, they do like to see that explosion and see the effects and see how you can make it happen and everything like that. But there was it teaches own, I guess, and I definitely feel what you're saying when it comes to your build, because like the entire time with your partner, like her face said it all. Like he spoke without speaking, and I'm looking at the face, I'm looking at the demeanor, I'm like, yeah, I can see. It's a hard thing to build when you're like, I know nothing about this character. How do I make the story come to life? But I felt as though you guys did a great job in doing it.
So okay, I said I was gonna spill yesterday.
Yeah,
so we picked the minifig. I'm like, okay, I know what a centaur is. Number one, like I do. She does not, but I do. Like I know it's half man, half horse. I know it's like fantasy. I know all that.
Right.
I don't know centaur lore. Like, okay, are there like who's the centaur antagonist? Like what's the? I kind of know centaurs in the forest, but environment stuff like that. So there's he Will said it in the episode. There's no rule because it's fantasy. So operating with that limited knowledge, had to figure out, okay, what the environment is going to be, but then also who the antagonist is going to be, and then what's going to explode.
Right.
What's going to explode. One of the things that I was talking about earlier, just a few minutes ago, when I said I forgot to do X, Y, Z, I don't remember the cauldron exploding like I wanted it to, because when we were building it, and we were trying to raise the elevation, I ended up accidentally building channels.
Right.
Not thinking, oh yeah, we can use these for the explosive. What I forgot to do was build a wall like right on the edge of the cauldron so that the explosive would go up and not out.
Right.
So That was one. Number two, man, I can't say this. I'll have to talk to you on another time. But there was another stipulation that affected how we built, and it affected it affected the color palette, I would say, that that we used. I think other teams did a really good job of not letting that particular stipulation get in the way of them creating.
Right.
But as for me and our team, I was there's a danger, I think, in not being present and looking forward and shortchanging yourself in the moment.
Right. And
that's something that happened to us. The other thing, one bad and then I'll end with one good thing. Not only you saw her face.
Yes.
Right. You saw.
Yeah. I was like, come on, like yeah. I get it. I'm just like, you got it.
She was. It would be like. it would be like if she picked a pinata. It would be like that.
Yeah. I got as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah. I already see it. So I think there was some consternation. I'll use the word in our communication on that challenge, trying to figure out what it was going to be first of all, and then who was going to do what. Right.
What am I going to work on? What's she going to work on? If something's not working, making room to pivot if necessary. Mm-hmm. You saw that wall that was being built.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, I was, and when I saw you take it down, I said you did something that a lot of us have a hard time doing. And I don't know, in the way that they filmed it, you don't really know what point in the build, what hour mark in the build you said, we built this giant wall. Now we got to take it down because it does not fit no more. A lot of us have a problem with that. I know me, once I start building, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, am I going to have enough time? We built so much of this. And when you took it down, I was applauding this. I was like, okay, all right. I see. I don't know when they took it down, but I'm like, that was a good move. Because now you got to reshape, you got to refocus, and I thought that was a good step.
There was a point in which Amy and Jamie came over, and we were talking about the wall. The concept of the wall was to direct the explosions out.
Yes.
However, if you direct the explosion out, and the thing that you want to explode falls, the wall's still going to be there, and it's going to look crazy.
That's true.
That's something that I said it to Amy and Jamie. I said the impact would be lessened if this wall was kept, and whatever is supposed to explode in front of it explodes, and then that's just sitting there. I wouldn't want to see that.
Yeah.
So I took it down. What happened before that?
Yeah.
There was a point in which we were beefing, and it got to the point where I had to diffuse the situation. So I'm going to refer to something else that you said.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
You said something about playing into the stereotype, right?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that, and if my hunch is correct.
Okay, so there's a few things on the show, and I'm using my season for an example, that they decided to kind of steer the direction of people's assumptions to those people, to not those people, but to the builders. So, for example, you had Mel and Jermaine, and the way that they kind of painted them is like they're stealing ideas. So when you think of stealing ideas, and then when you look at them, oh, okay, they're okay. So that's why they're stealing ideas. So it's perpetuating a stereotype that is not fair, and it's not the case. Now, when it came to you guys, when I was looking at that, and I kept seeing, I keep Serena. When I kept seeing her face, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, like the stereotype that keeps replaying in the back of my mind, like, oh man, they going with the angry black woman type of vibe. And I said, I feel as though that's not what they're going for, but I mean, we live in a society now that you can look at something and just automatically get that stereotype. Like, oh, she don't know nothing about this. She's angry. Now she has the mean mug. And I know, I'm sure her face is not always like that, but the way that they just kind of zoomed in on it and kept it like that.
It was present. They didn't CGI her face. It was present.
It was present. So you know, they could have definitely did it differently. They could have chose different shots, you know, because they have cameras on us the entire time. So they have a plethora of different shots that they could have used. But I saw that and I was like, dang, I hope that's not the narrative they're creating for your team going forward in the next few episodes or so on. Oh, however far you guys go.
Yeah. Of course, I can't say anything, but I would say yes. My hunch was correct, and that was the other thing.
Okay.
So that's what I was referring to when I said I had to. We were beefing, and it got to the point where I had to diffuse the situation.
Right.
I don't know how much anybody in this chat will like understand what I'm about to say. I told Sarita before we got on this show that I was not going to have her looking crazy. Sarita is the first black woman to be on Lego Masters like ever across all of the iterations around the world. Like
right.
First one ever.
That's right.
It's important to me to not give them any kind of content that would paint her or anybody that looks like her in a light that is present in other reality TV shows.
That's right.
On top of trying to figure out something to build that's good, right? So like that's in the back of my mind the entire time.
Absolutely.
So when we were, you know, when it was coming to a head, I was like, if I do the wrong thing, then it's gonna be a wrap for me on social media. It's gonna be a wrap for me in the print, in the mags, all of that. So I'm gonna step over here.
Yeah.
Gonna cool out.
Yeah.
And then when we get back, we're gonna finish what we came out here to do. We're not gonna quit.
Absolutely.
And so again, I don't know how many people in the chat can understand what I'm trying to say. Hopefully you get it. But like, not everybody has to think about stuff like that.
Right.
But I did, and we did. So at that point is when the wall came down.
Got you. And you know, just to speak on it, you know, the same sentiment that you had, same sentiment me and my brother came in with. You know, at the time when we knew that we got on the show, we were saying that was the first thing we sat down, we talked about. We were sitting in, we was like, all right, we're on the show, we made it on the show. Like, but it has nothing to do with us being skillful and building with Lego. The first thing America's gonna see is all this. They're gonna see our faces, they're gonna see our skin. And you know, if we've talked about this, and this is nothing new for anybody who's in the chat. We've had conversations about this on different platforms, on different, man, I can't even think right now. But different platforms. We spoke on this like, all right, well, you know, there's a lot going in because traditionally, when it comes to Lego, a lot of people that you see doing Lego are traditionally Caucasian, you know, and so on and so forth. You rarely see black people building with Lego. You know, and that's just, and other races on top of that. So, you know, you're always going to have that, you know, that reality. So being able to be on the show, and I remember I I kid you not, as we came in the first day of filming, we didn't know who other teams made it. You know, we saw the teams that we were with and some of the people we saw at casting, which was cool. And then we saw Mel and Jermaine. And I remember we were sitting there. I was sitting there talking to my brother and everything like that. And then they walked in and we looked at each other. And, you know, you already know. Like, we looked at each other. We gave each other the look. We was like,
yeah.
And that was
you
it.
Already know. Yeah.
We already know. We like, all right, we're here to compete. But, you know, this is a big step forward. You know, because, you know, kids that look like us are going to want to build with Lego because, oh, wow, look at those people building with Lego and they look like me. You know, I even think that that's also true for, was it Danny and Zach? That, you know.
Oh, Zach and Wayne, I think.
Zach and Wayne. That's true for them too. You know, so it's a lot of things. And I think that is a good mix of multiculturals in this season. But to kind of speak to where we are right now, when I saw that from the episode, I said, okay, you guys had a strong ending to your build because your build was memorable. The explosion was memorable, and that's what you want to go for. But definitely the stereotype that you want to shatter immediately. You know, I'm glad you're seeing things from the bigger perspective and the bigger picture, because that's exactly what it boils down to. How America is going to see us, you know, and see what you do, you know, because some kids are not going to look at skin, but, you know, a lot of people, they do. So, you know.
I mean, credit to the production. They did a really good job of cutting the episode and making us look good. I thought I was ready. I was sitting in front of the TV. I was like, here we go. But after the episode, I was like, all right. Like I could be in the streets. I could be in this Lego conventions. You know, in the future, and like I could eat that. That's cool.
Yeah.
You know, anybody that gotta say what they want to say about it. If anybody feel you, dog, I feel you. Yeah. So, you know, you're not shattering my impressions over here.
Right.
So after that episode, I was like, all right, like I'm fine with this.
That's good.
So, to your point, again, like running it all the way back, it is very interesting to like watch a reality TV show or competition where somebody is eliminated, you know, on chance, and then actually being there and like watching the calculus in that, right? Like you put a brick wrong, you put a brick down wrong here and there, and you don't know how stuff is going to explode. Like I said, you just gotta like assume stuff. Yeah. And so you guess wrong, it's a wrap. But you know, at the same token, does America want to see 12 episodes of Lego conventions? I don't know. That's true.
That's why, you know, like for next week's episode, the Make and Shake. Now that I'm interested in, because again, it's another game of chance in a sense. You got to build it so that, you know, I don't know the full rules, but just based on what they're showing you, you got to build this building. It has to be 4 foot tall or whatever, and it has to be able to withstand a shake. So that's going to speak to your architectural, you know, knowledge and how you build. So that's a good and cool challenge. You know, you're still building something that's aesthetically pleasing, and it's just shaking. You know, so I'm interested to see what are the rules as to, does it have to stay together as it shakes? You know, certain challenges like that I can appreciate, like the bridge challenge. You know, you're stacking weights on top of it. You know, that's a good challenge. You're challenging yourself as a builder. But when it comes to like explosions and purposely blowing up what you create, that's the one thing I have a problem with. I guess that's the one challenge that I've never liked, because you're like with Will, when Will was throwing that bat, that's solely up to Will. If Will hits it and he hits it at a certain angle and it doesn't break the way you wanted it to break, you know, you could be in the bottom, and that's not fair, you know? So that's that I'm glad they got rid of that element and kind of stuck to, all right, you have the detonation, you have extra elements, you know, that's all good. You know,
interesting. Somebody says this an Australia challenge. The winners built a giant great prison. Oh, you talking about Jackson and Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, obviously, you know, America has a different taste of entertainment. And the, you know, executives, they, you know, they're hired to do that. They're hired to make a show that's going to be fun, that's going to make people watch. You know, you root for teams, you know, which is all good. That's why when I say, you know, the team that had to go home last night's episode, I understood why. But I can't, I don't want to ever take away from what they did, because their build itself was very impressive for what they were able to do. You know, and that's something I would love to see at a convention. If you fill it out more, you know, that would be awesome. But let me ask you this question, because we threw this out in the chat yesterday and today, and I was hoping that Mark would be on, because I want to get your opinion. I have my opinion about this, but I want to get your opinion. The first two challenges, your build space were predetermined of what you can build on.
Yes.
So I don't know how the rest of the season is going to go, if it's going to be like that. But do you feel, did that help you in your build creativity, or did that hinder you because you only had a certain amount of space to really work on?
I'm a designer, so I like constraints.
Okay.
So I like knowing the bounds of play, and they articulated as such in these first two challenges. Okay. Not just you know, the base plates, but also, you know, you got to be this tall, got to be, you know, this, that, and the third. So I did not have a problem with it. It allowed a level of focus and something else to not have to think about. Okay. Because let's say, you know, the parade float, that was, they said, oh, you know, it had to be a minimum of two 48 by 48s. But then that's all they say. Like, if they said that, right, then it'd be like, all right, well, this Lego Masters, this TV, I probably gotta, let me go do 4, you know, and let me do like 4 feet high, and then, you know, I got 14 hours to do it, and it's just unwieldy. So the constraints, I think, help, especially with the time limit. Right. So you can both get scale and detail.
Got you.
What do you think?
So I thought that it could hurt, and I'll tell you why. So the float, I get the float idea, because you want to, you know, every float usually has its rectangular shape as its platform, and then you kind of build it however you got to build it. So that part I get. The hero shot, when I saw that it was already cut out and it was that triangle shape, I said, man, that at least for me, that kind of limits my creativity, because, you know, everybody kind of has the same idea. Like, all right, we're building to the scale to where my centerpiece is here and everything is going to be back here. But I felt as though, like, if they were to say, here's your character on your board or whatever, build however you want, I feel like it's going to really test the limits of your skill to say, okay, well, I have more space to fill. I want it to be grand. I want it to be big, you know, so I'm going to fill it here, 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 and here. But when it's a triangular shape, you know, you can't go on certain sides because you only have about this much of studs, and then you got to build the rest of it on the back. You know, granted, everybody was able to use that same shape and make everything different, which I like, but there were a few builds that were vaguely similar because of the limitation of the triangular base plate. So I felt like we could have you know, expand that to be like, here's your figure, put your figure wherever you want in your explosion, but that figure has to stand alone as the hero, and that will give you a chance to say, okay, well, I got to figure out how to make that work. So that was just my only you know, pushback.
I think that's fair. I think about a competition and just in general, not even just Lego Masters, but in general, making sure everybody's on equal footing. And so I think about, you know, the controls, basically. Right. What's the controls and what are the variables? Right. Variables in this challenge were the explosions. Right. Where the dynamite was, where you put it, how much you put in one place versus the other, where you built it break, but the placement of the fig and the triangular shape, the controls just to make sure everybody again is competing under the same rules. But I understand how you're saying that might limit creativity and people adding their own flair.
Right. So, question from Ezra, and I think it was explained. The characters, your minifigs cannot be shielded from the explosion. It has to stand free. It has to be freestanding, and whatever the explosion is. So I think was it whose character fell over? It was
Mark and Steven.
Mark and Steven. Their figure fell over, but their explosion was great.
Yes.
So, but their figure fell over. But I guess it all depends on how it falls. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, if you just think about the concept of a hero shot, and the hero is like badass, like they're supposed to walk away from it without having a turtle shell, like if they were Leonardo or Michelangelo. Like that ain't cool. That's not like they walking around like, yeah, the fire is going off, but it ain't gonna hit me. Yeah. So if everybody were able to shield the hero, like it wouldn't have been as impressive.
Exactly. I agree with that. Hey, Jen, I was just speaking about you earlier on. So if you want to come on real quick.
Yeah, Jen, come on.
I wanna give you a platform to come on in.
Jen is one of my that's my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That entire episode, I thought they did a good job in creating a new layer of storytelling for Jen. Hey, how are you? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Good. I think I kind of met you at Bricks Cascade, but like it was like one of those like I'm there's so much going on. Hi. And stuff like that, but yeah.
And I said, hey, you wanted to say hi to my son? He had cancer, and you were like, yeah. And so we got him on the phone, and he
That's right.
Like, hi.
Wow. That's right.
Got all shy.
Man, but good to see you again, though.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me hop in. I saw Randall was on, and I was like, oh yeah, let's do some of that.
Awesome. So let me ask you real quick, Jen. So what did you think of last night's episode? Did you? I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Randall. How did you like the presentation of your build with Susan? Was it to your liking? Did they miss certain parts? What did you think?
Dude, there's always details missing, and that was one thing I was like really sad about seeing the details missing from the other teams as well. I was like, oh, they didn't show this and they didn't show that. I thought they did a really good job with the amount of time that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think the editing was like fantastic. They highlighted everybody, I think, really well. I'm loving hearing all the little comments and stuff that were happening at other tables that you miss while you've got your head down and you're building.
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun to watch all of the edits come together. So I thought they did a great job. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That's
awesome, and I like how they had your story as the comeback story. So that was from speaking from our season, the comeback story was Sam and Jessica, because they were struggling towards the beginning, and then our third episode when they did the mermaid was like their comeback. Like they came back from from where they were, and now they're here in a way. So I love how they painted your this was your episode in a sense, where you guys got the focus as far as we're moms, we're doing this together. We had a rough start going in, but we were able to bring it together and really bring something that was memorable. And I thought you guys definitely nailed that in the episode. And just speaking about your son and everything like that, I thought that was really good for them. To showcase that,
Thank you. It was really fun. That first episode, I was not happy with how it presented. Like, it was not at all what I had inside my head, right?
Yeah.
And you want to show everybody what you can do, and you want to be able to share the vision that you have in your head, and it did not come out. And so I was like, just so mad at myself. And so being up there ready for elimination and just, dude, I got a second chance. And so Susan and I ran with it this episode, and it turned out so good. We loved how it turned out.
Wonderful. And that's always good. Like when you're thinking about it, in the moment, you're thinking about building, you're thinking about how you want to bring your creation out and how you want to display it. You're not really thinking about how are they going to film it? How is America going to see you? How is the world going to see you? Is the world going to be attached to your story? And that's always a thing that you don't really think about in the moment of building. I know for us, we didn't think about that. The first episode, when we had our elimination and they were like, oh, nobody's getting eliminated. Like, all of us was like, oh, like everybody had a second chance, with the exception of maybe the teams that got to the top two, but we all had a second chance because we was like, okay, well, now we understand where we are. We understand the limitation. We understand what they're looking for. Now we have everything to our disposal, and it's like it's like new ground to really build and feel confident enough in building, and I think the twist on this episode, where you guys use demolition to showcase your building technique, is I feel like it's the best way to go about it, as opposed to dropping it from a ceiling or hitting it with a bat. That stuff people could do at home, and I do not like that. But I thought that they did a good job in kind of showcasing that for everybody. And I thought you guys are definitely off to a great start. All the teams off to a great start in this season, because it's buzzing. People are talking, and that's what you want. You want people talking.
I remember Philip and Maria saying too that being close to elimination really lit a fire under their butts too, and it's a sombering feeling to be standing there and going, oh man, I might get cut. But I think it's like counterbalance, like you said, with the fun of doing things that we would never do with our own Lego at home. We would never explode or crash or just, we don't think about it breaking apart. We're always trying to, how strong can we build it? How can we make it do what we want it to do? Yeah. And so I like that the challenges really, throw us all off balance. We all have different talents and skills. And so having challenges like this really puts us all on a level playing field. And they did the same thing in season 1. And I just love that. Yeah.
That's why I'm so interested to see what next week's episode is going to be like, because it's the total opposite. In my opinion, just by looking at it, you got to build something structurally sound to withstand shakes. So I'm interested to see where you guys go with it, where you guys take it. Because those type of challenges I do like. Because it's still up to chance, but it's still like, you still have a better hand in creating something that will not, buckle under pressure, so to speak. So
it's not something I had ever thought about before. And Randall, have you ever thought about anything like that before? Like, they showed us that first building shaking, and I was just like, okay, how are we going to get our Lego clutch to hold for this? And I just remember thinking, okay, this is like the biggest math problem ever.
You know what? I'll answer that. There's a way I want to answer that question.
No spoilers.
Right. It's no spoilers. No spoilers at all. But ask me again after the season.
After the season's over?
After?
Or not the episode?
Wait till next Saturday? I gotta wait till after the season's over? Okay. I'll get it later.
Yeah, for real. For real. Yeah. Because the other thing, the other aspect of, the answer that I want to give is, I wonder if season 1 thought about stuff like that, and that's where I'm gonna end it.
Okay.
Yeah. And Corey is like, what am I referring to? I'm gonna hit you in the DMs after.
All right. Because I'm thinking like, man, that could be a question that could go different ways.
Right.
I will say this. I thought back to season 1 while thinking about how to build for the next episode to the bridge challenge.
Yes.
And I was thinking, okay,
yes,
see how all that shakes out. But
Ooh. I like that.
where's Natalie when we meet her?
Yeah.
Oh man, with the puns, that was beautiful. And I even mentioned that too with Natalie. I thought she had a great moment, where she that wit came out, and she was able to step up there. I was like, yeah, that's good. I like that.
She's like that all the time.
Okay.
So yeah. Oh, Michelle is in here.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, look, we got
Yeah. Oh, and now Maria and Philip are on. So if one of them want to get on here, I'd be curious to hear their thoughts.
Yes, swap us out.
Definitely. Let's do that. All right, I'm gonna say
Natalie was giving Will a run for his money the whole time. It was awesome. And so at that one point where they were going back and forth up there, he actually stepped back, and they showed just a little of this. He stepped back and gave her his spot, and we just all were screaming.
It was so dope.
that's
fantastic.
awesome. That's so awesome.
Great.
That was good. I like how the hosts and the Brickmasters are this season, because I think they feel a little bit less. Oh, you can't right now? Okay, no problem. They feel less, I guess, stiff and more relaxed.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
They said as much. There's an interview that came out that said that they know what they're doing. They feel more comfortable.
Yes.
Rather, not that they didn't know what they were doing, but they feel more settled in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can see.
I know that there is, they want to be careful, honestly, getting emotionally attached to us. So there was that separation just because they've got to make some tough decisions. And so I respected that, and that's what that's cool. But honestly, I just wanted to hang out with them and build stuff in the brick pit. Honestly, true. For a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? And you mentioned this, and I mean, we could talk about it too. During the elimination with Jack and Dawn, the emotions were there. They cut to some of the builders, some of the Lego masters who were who was emotional. Amy looked like she got a little choked up as well. I mean, so let me ask you guys your experience when it comes to this. Like, our first elimination was sad. We lost Kara and Jess. Our first elimination. They were the mothers of our group. Like, literally, as we ate, they were walking around taking up our trays and throwing it in the garbage. We're like, you don't gotta do that. They're like, no. We're gonna do that for you guys. We're moms and stuff like that. So that they made their presence known as the mothers of our group. So losing them the first episode was really tough. And it was kind of a reality check for a lot of us, because it was like, oh, like, people are gonna go home now. Now our family is being broken up. And I never liked that aspect of any. I'm a big Master Chef guy. So I used to hate that, watching like my favorite chef go home. I'm like, oh, I'm done with the show. And and that sucks for the show, because that viewership is now gone, because they just left with that team. So, but how did you guys think of the elimination? How was that moment?
It was hard. Having faced that moment during the first episode, I didn't like it. It was really hard. I cried for a long time after that. And we were all just sobbing, and they didn't do all this either, but we were hugging and talking and giving last goodbyes and everything like that for a while on set, to where they were kind of like, okay, we got to get rolling, right? Yeah. But it was just it was hard. And you're right. It felt like family was being broken up. And I knew that our relationship wasn't over. We would continue, and that we'd still be seeing them, but we didn't get to play in the brick pit anymore, and that was it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah.
I would say the same. It is, context is key, right? So like Jen was saying, you're never going to have that moment with that person again, right? Like being there all together playing, and they ain't there no more. Yeah. So it really, and this is again what I was saying earlier as well, right? Jen, you weren't on, but it bears repeating for people that are watching the show. Anything, we circumstances. We don't build under these challenges. Our performance is not indicative of our skill in a vacuum.
Amen.
Right.
So that's something for everybody to take into account when they watch. And, you know, you might think, oh, somebody's whack, but like, I would love to see, you know, somebody building 14 hours and have to build under certain stipulations, and you got to do this, that, and the third, and you probably don't do this at home.
Yeah.
So it's something, so again, related to, you know, elimination, like it really sucks to see people go when everybody's doing their best. Everybody's doing their best. And so I never want people to think, those of us that were there, I don't want us to think like, okay, that day we might have had a bad day at the office. That's really it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's the only day you got, and that's it, right? Like something break that wasn't supposed to break, or whatever. And it's luck. There's a lot of luck that goes into this, and it's rough. But yeah, thank you, Randall. I totally agree with you. What you're seeing on the show is not at all what all of these builders can do. It's pretty amazing. And look, I got this from Dawn. I was wearing this today. She made me a Kelsey. Oh, it's upside down. Kelsey, sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
What
did she say? Did she say that to you?
Yeah. She said it to me like a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And so I was like, I'm going to make one, but wait, I would love it if I had one from you. And so she made one for me. So I will say this. Dawn and Jack were wearing bracelets like this on the show.
yes.
Keep watching the show, because even though Dawn and Jack are gone, their bracelets show up. Easter egg, people. You'll see them on our wrists throughout the
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was really, really fun to do.
That's family right
Tim.
there. Tim, how are you,
Hey.
sir?
Hey.
Good to see you guys.
I saw you were live, so I figured I'd pop on real quick. I had to wait because I had to put a shirt on because it's pretty hot out here. I had to get dressed real quick.
I think we're glad that you waited for the shirt. I appreciate it.
Like I tell people, this is a family show. This is a family show. It's not a, you know.
Well, we're in the 80s and 90s for Michigan, and that's not usual for us. We're usually a lot cooler, so my northern Michigan blood is just starting to boil, and I struggle with the heat. I really do.
That's real.
So Tim, you are the creator of the Dad Dab. Is that correct? That
Let's
right?
see if I can do it here. Hang on.
Let's see the Dad Dab. Let's go.
Come on, Randall. You got to do it with me, Randall. Come on.
Hell no.
Come on, baby.
There it is.
That's all you. That's all you.
The Dad Dab. So,
So we got fans. So there's a couple kids. Moto's son actually did the dab too. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Moto's son was doing the dab along with us. So we were just like, all right, let's keep rocking this thing, man. Let's keep going.
No, keep going. Definitely. So
hey, Randall still rolls his eyes.
That is so funny to me. Wow.
Somebody just said, wait a minute, I gotta read that. I gotta scroll back. Somebody said they're stuck between encouragement and wanting to cry.
I think that's Caleb. Either Caleb or Jacob. I'm not sure.
Because Randall can handle, he's got a great sense of humor, and he can handle some dad jokes, but then he hits his limit and he's done. No more.
Well, speaking of, I don't know who of the Midwest builders are in here, Maria or Philip, but if that's Philip, OMG. I don't know if you're ready for this, Corey.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Listen, when I saw that, when I saw the Dad Dab and just the wording, I was like, yeah, that's gonna be big. That's gonna be big. I hope you do that. I hope you do that for the rest of the season. That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. Well,
somebody please make a gif out of that, please.
Oh yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well, when they opened up the very first episode and they said we have embarrassing dad, everybody that we were doing a watch party, everybody turned to me and they're like, "That was you, wasn't it? It was definitely you, wasn't it?" I was like, "Okay, I'm raising my hand. I'm owning that title, man. Let's just rock it. Just embrace the embarrassing dad."
That is awesome. But Tim, let me ask you a question. So, Second episode came out. You and your son's build. I loved it. I loved the idea of it. It made sense. You had the story element. That pow on the back wall. That was a great touch because it gives that extra animation. So I have my thoughts as to why it didn't fall the way you wanted it to. And you could kind of help me understand and help the viewers understand. So I know you have your 2 vials of slime that was going crisscross. Was your back wall too far from the initial explosion to have that ripple effect? Or what caused it to not fall?
So we have suspicions, but we weren't able to inspect the build after it went. So we're not 100% sure. So these are all assumptions. They're not factual. This is just kind of where we're at. One of the things that we thought was a possibility is that the way that the charge was set, because there was 3 different locations. We had a charge in each one of the vials, then we had a charge that was actually setting behind, and then we built that solid black wall as its base upon which it would shoot out the charge and direct the charge forward rather than allowing it to dissipate. We think that it is possible that the way that the charge, because we couldn't test it, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen with the charge, but we think what happened is it knocked the hinges, because we only had it connected on the bottom by 2 different hinge type bricks, and we think that it broke the hinge and popped the hinge, which caused the bottom to kick out rather than it allowing it to kick out from the top. So with the bottom kicking out, what it did is it just kind of kicked out enough, and there was pieces in front, some part of the scenery where we think, and again, we weren't able to inspect, but we think that bottom kicked out, hit up one of the I don't actually know, but something within the scenery, causing that the bottom to come back out and then the front to tilt back. Based on the way we were looking, we totally suspect that happened, but we're not sure. A couple of other things, and this is, it's always the what ifs. It's always, you look back and you think, if I would have just done this, or if you have this much time, what Randall was saying, you got 14 hours or 10 hours, and you got to go as fast as you can. And then you walk away from something, you're like, oh, no, I didn't mean to do that, kind of a thing. Yeah. And as we were, because we had to set it, and as we were setting it, there was a few things that were going on, and that the wall was hinged. And I think when they set the charges and the hinge caused the wall to come back a little bit further than what we had intended. And so the wall was leaning back further, which then created a difference in the charge, and it's like, ultimately it's my responsibility. I need to look at it and I own it and whatever. But it was just one of those pieces. And I know the reason why we were in the bottom was due to the fact that we weren't able to complete the story. So we had the story aspect, and part of that story was the whole factory wall was going to fall down. It should have ended with the big pow that was going on. It didn't, but there's a lot of maybe it was this, and maybe it was that, and maybe it was this part, and maybe I didn't do that. Maybe I don't know, but we did the best that we could with the time that we had, with the elements that we had, with the pieces that we had. We did the best we could. I have no regrets. Especially when it comes, I've worked on stages before. We've done pyrotechs, and I can tell you one thing: we test pyrotechs multiple times before you ever go live. Yeah, we couldn't test any of our pyrotechs.
It was like you literally had to. They told you guys, they said, hey, where do you want these charges? And you have to hope that the charges that you're putting in is going to give you the effect that you're looking for. So it's like,
exactly. So there's a little bit of, just because of my background in doing stage security and stuff like that, I understand it's all about the direction of the gas. Like, that's really what we're trying to accomplish. But you also test the gas, you test the charge multiple times. Like, anytime we do stuff, do it 2, 3, 4 times just to make sure that the gas is being directed the right way, that there's enough charge put in it, that it's not too heavy, that there's not any backdraft, or there's all kinds of things. You don't get to test it. You get up there and it's like, you got to go. You got to put the charge in. We're all sitting there, and I guarantee you, every one of us sitting there, we're all got our fingers crossed, like, I hope it goes out, I hope it goes out. And every contestant, every team would say the exact same way prior to watching it go, because we just didn't know how any of the gas, which is what controls the bang and the blow up, we didn't know how the gas was going to go. So it's totally, we build to the best of our knowledge. We build with what we've got, the time, and everything else, and then you basically have to release it, let it go out in the big world, stretch its wings, and hope that it's going to work the way you planned.
Yeah. I think for the most part, a lot of the explosions from all of the teams, I think they did what was intended to a degree. Some were bigger than others, obviously. Some, had their little hiccups and everything like that. But overall, all of the builds aesthetically were pleasing, at least to me. I enjoyed all of the stories, and I got all of the stories. Like sometimes you kind of lose parts of the story in the builds, but for the most part, I understood most of the builds.
Yeah.
So now,
you know what?
Yeah.
That's a good point. That was the thing I forgot to finish. So, the interesting thing about our build, it was super Easter egg, and they didn't include anything in it. And I didn't think about it until, after everything was over. So we had to come up with names we were like, let's just come up with names for our stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, call him Andre. I'm like, all right, whatever. So called a wizard Andre. We called the centaur Camille. And the dust that we had was purple.
Yeah.
Now, all of that lines up, and it's interesting. This episode came on when it did. All of this lines up in the world of fans that are Prince fans.
Okay.
Prince's birthday was on Monday.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. So we had the purple dust. Camille is like a voice that he uses on certain songs. And then Andre is like basis of his from like the early.
Wow.
So yeah, super deep. But like,
cut.
Yeah,
hip hop is coming through there, man. the true core of y'all.
Oh yeah, and that and Bonita Applebum. I was like, let's just have some fun with it. Like, I don't really like this build, but like, let's have some fun with the name.
No, but that's good for branding, and that's something that they don't really tell you about this when you're sitting down with production and they're telling you the builds. You're not really thinking like, all right, well, branding. Because at the end of the day, you guys are a team. Everybody's a team, but you're also a brand, not only of Lego Master, but of your entity as a team. So to continue that kind of like with the hip hop, to continue that type of branding makes all the sense in the world, because that's how people are going to identify. The moms. The moms. People are going to identify with moms, and you guys building, and now you're building to show your family and to show your kids. We can build too. And then father son, you have a niche right there, because people love that father son bond. To see it, it's awesome.
We have an Easter egg for our name as well, and okay. I'm really curious if anybody picked up on that, because I don't know if I should give it away. I should probably let my son give it away. I don't know.
Is it for this episode or just your name?
For the one that we just had, the name that we created for our mad scientist. So the one that we just did, there's a very specific reason why we created that. It wasn't shown on the TV, or it wasn't anywhere along that. And in fact, we weren't able to actually say and talk about it just because I think I can talk about it. I guess I can talk about it.
Yeah.
So my kids growing up, huge fans of Phineas and Ferb.
Okay.
So Dr. Smirch, where do you think we got Dr. Smirch from?
That's so funny.
Wow.
Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated. We just went right along with that theme, and we're just like, well, we can't use the evil, the incorporated evil, whatever. We couldn't use that. Yes. Well, we wanted to, but we couldn't use that. That's where the Dr. Smirch came from, because it was a kickback to Phineas and Ferb.
Wow.
And the whole thing. So anyway, this build that we did, this was my son's favorite build out of everything that he was like, this one. As soon as we picked the mad scientist, he immediately knew what the build was going to be. He was like, boom, right on it. He was like, let's go. I got this, man. I got this. He was so excited about this character and this build. He just, we were building right next to Randall.
He was so excited. I was like, dang, the opposite ours. I was like, all right, they probably gonna kill this. The way that Zach was talking, I was like, all right.
Well, the interesting thing is obviously I should say obviously, Randall and I, we were car buddies, so we were paired up every time we were driving back and forth. So
okay, nice.
Obviously we're not allowed to talk about our builds. We're not allowed to do anything until after the fact, and then we can kind of share a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were riding back to the hotel, this was like the one thing we really bonded on. We were just connecting on this whole level. Anyway, so it was pretty cool, fun, and exciting. So
Tim's like, I'm not gonna tell you what I would do, but I would do this. You got a really good minifig. I would do something, but I can't tell you. I'm like, thanks, man. Like, all right. Okay.
You know what?
Corey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, one thing that we were talking about on set together, and I've seen a lot of people saying this in comments too. How would it be if Lego Masters had like extended versions or behind the scenes, or like just not for everybody? I'm sure not everybody would want to watch it, but like if we took this one episode and added an hour and we could add like 2 hours, it would still be fascinating. Is that something you guys talked about during first season at all? Like, what would it be like to have like an extended version?
We talked about something to that extent. Like at the time, we were watching, kind of watching Australia's season. So season 2 in Australia, and they had like there were certain segments where they were like outside of the brick room and they were like actually out, like doing stuff together as like different teams, and they would go out for ice cream or they would do other extra activities. And I thought that gave another layer of who the characters are and who the builders are. That outside of this competition, like we come into the brick room, boom, we got our competition face on. We're ready for business. You are the opposition, and we're gonna go. We're gonna go to battle. But outside of that, we're like, okay, hey, let's go to Target. Sure, we'll all go to Target, and we'll just walk around. I think that would have been. I think that would have been cool, especially with the as the team started to whittle away in a way, and you only had a few teams left. I thought that would have been really fun content to kind of add to the show, to show like, hey, we're the last 4 teams, we're out for dinner or something like that. I think people would want to see that because people are invested. This is a type of reality show where it's not about being negative. It's not about doing all the type of things that gravitate certain type of people to the show. It's a family show, and kids want to know, what do these Lego Masters do when they're not building with Lego? So that's why you get these little vignettes, which is fun. It shows you a little bit of your outside personality, especially Tim, when you and your son, when you guys were walking and everything like that, you just pushed them in the snow. Like that was like, I was just sitting there like, oh, like I see more of the builders, and I'm relating more to you, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I really like this dynamic. It's so cool. And I think they need to do some, do more stuff of that. To answer your question, though, yeah.
I would love, and I think we've talked about this too, and I'm asking the question here. I would love to see more about the build. Like, what are you doing behind? Like, that's what I like. I can't tell you how many. I'm not on this one, but the previous one when it came to the float.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we built, tore it down, rebuilt, tore it down, like 3 different times. And I know, Jen, you probably were in the same position. And like there was different things like you build it and like that's not going to work. And then you have to tear it down and you go, oh, that's not going to work. And, you kind of go back. Yeah. That's the part that I want to see because it's kind of that experience and the process of that you're running through.
So Tim, you mentioned something. I mentioned this yesterday, and I think it was your build, Jen, with Susan. There was a part where Will came over to you when he was talking with you, and either you or your partner were putting down. You had snot bricks, and then you were placing those gold pieces in front of the snot bricks and stuff like that. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, I hope they allow you to talk about the technique that you're doing. Aaron, to talk about the technique that you're doing. Because I'm like, you know what? The one thing that I felt like we failed in our season was that we didn't talk more about the build and actually the technique of how we did the build. Even if we're saying, all right, well, this gear mechanism is meshed with this 24 tooth gear.
Yeah.
It's a lot of jargon, But it's also good information for kids and good information for parents to be like, oh wow, I'm an engineer and I understand that type of jargon, and now I'm more invested in this build. And I was like, man, if only you could talk about that snot. Well, whoa, what I'm doing this snot. I have snot put out, and it's fun. It's
the interesting
educational.
thing is we had a technique on the first build on the parade float that Randall used. I think the identical technique on the wall. So we both used the same technique, and it was the way that we were building. It was with round pieces, and anyway, it just connected. We used it in a format that allowed us to do a complete circle for the tower.
Yes.
Obviously, you can't see that; it's not talked about. But we did a complete circle, and then Randall used the exact same technique and the exact same style to create the breakable wall, which I thought was interesting because you have two different applications of a similar technique as far as how you build.
Right.
But again, short show, you can't talk about all that stuff. And I mean, we can talk about this one because obviously we've done both of the episodes and they've both aired.
Yeah.
But those are the kinds of things that it's really, really hard to explain to the public unless you actually take some time and you start digging in and saying, okay, this is every other one that you use, or you put it on an odd form. It just sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult to explain it.
Yeah.
They had so many cameras there I know the cameras caught all of that detail.
Yeah.
It would be so awesome to just have access to that footage and be able to even put it together also the voiceover of here's the technique we were doing and here's a close up of what it looked like inside.
Right.
Because you only see the outside when we like last episode when we floated apart. I had pieces inside my spider that jutted out into the cavity so that when it exploded, it would tip each piece out. So there was no way that spider was staying together. And I built it in 4 sections, each one with a lever piece that would explode out. And then I built it split in half, right? And so you can't see that when it's all sitting there looking pretty upright, in front of the camera. But those close-ups, I think, while we're building would be just phenomenal. And I think so many people would love that. And like you're saying, it's like an educational piece.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's really, really fun. And Jen, you and I have talked offline about some other things, but with us doing that parade and the float, when Jamie came over, he actually commented, because Zach was in the process of building, it's like, that is a really cool way to use that technique. And he commented on that. And that's one of the things that sometimes you get to see that, sometimes you don't get to see that, but that's one of those things that it's just like, oh, yeah, it's kind of like, you've arrived, that it's kind of like that validation. It just kind of touches your heart. Exactly. It's validation aspect of it. Yeah, so there's that. And then, the other thing, you're talking about the style and the way that you're building. On the vials, Zach built it one way, and I had to go back and rebuild it just because I knew that it was going to dissipate the gas too much. Right. And so in one of the scenes, you actually see me with a pair of pliers reaching into that. I was actually building the base of that so that way the gas wouldn't go backwards; it would actually come out forward. But nobody knows why I was doing that. They're just like, "Why has he got pliers going into this file?" I mean, like, what the heck is he doing? So,
I love that. I picked that up immediately because we have tools. We have tools there and everything like that. So you don't really see us using some of those tools, but you do see.
Jen, you and me are like this right now. Yes.
You don't see us use those tools often.
My money.
But the tweezers, when I saw you dipping in with the tweezers, I was like, oh, that's so good. If only they, hey, why are you using those tweezers? Oh, well, I'm using them for this. It's a quick thing, but it's there. Look at Ragsy, the guy who dabbed. See, you're gonna be famous now. The dab. You're gonna be famous now for that.
Whoa, so Corey, we talked about this a while ago. Like my over/under on how many conventions Tim is gonna go to before he stops dabbing is like 4. Like, how you go to the 5th one, it's a wrap. Like, don't ask him to do no more dabs.
No. I don't know, man. I'm pretty stubborn. When I get something and it's a brandable thing, I'm like, it might be 5, 6. I don't know. I may never stop doing it just because I'm going to be the embarrassing dad always.
I want Tim dabbing on my socks. I want socks.
All right, so I don't know if Lisa, I'll have to tag Lisa in this, but Lisa Riggs. She is the best person to be able to get these socks. Anyway, we're going to do it. We're going to definitely do it.
I know I'm outside.
Yeah.
I know I'm outside of this, but I want a pair, just for the record.
Yeah.
No,
just
like,
for the record.
trust me, when you go to conventions, it's you're gonna get kids that want to come up to you, or dads that want to come to just to take pictures like that. So you're gonna be doing a lot of those.
I'm game, man. It's all for the kids anyway. I mean, like, I just love it. Let's do it, man. Anybody that's out there, you know what? I might actually have to get pictures and actually start signing with me standing there with the dad.
You have to. You've created a new market space for dad dabs.
Eventually, here's my goal. My eventual goal, and this is I'm going to put it out there. This is the big one. I'm going to have Randall do the dab with me. Come on, bud.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Tim, are you coming to Brick Fair, VA?
I can't make that one because I have another meeting. Well, I got a consultation.
Man, so sad.
All right, maybe I'll have to make it to Virginia just to do that.
Me and Jen are going to be there.
Where's the dab? It's not your. Where's the dab?
It's not here. Tim got it. Tim got the dab. I ain't got the dab.
See that?
It's all him. He pointed the market on dabs. It's a wrap.
Man,
well, every time I do it, Zach's going to be doing this thing. That's going to be like this constant, like, I can't.
With you doing the dab and Zach covering his face.
Oh, that's perfect. You need to make like Lego minifig versions of yourselves doing that. That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah. The only challenge is like if you have the minifigs, your arms they don't move that way, right? So they're just like you can't.
Got to manipulate that a little bit.
Go get an old school Technic minifig and do it that way.
Actually, I got to get. Richard isn't Richard the one that was doing all of those block builds?
So
or was it David? David. It was David.
Look at Dave's build that he just did his micro build for his float, and he has minifigures of him and Richard, and they've got their arms around each other. So look at how he did the arms.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that, and maybe do a brick build one just to be able to have the dab come in.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, excellent episode. Excellent second episode. Like us sitting on the outside, just watching as spectators and still knowing, like, kind of getting an idea of what you guys went through, how they did the production and stuff like that. It gives us a great appreciation for what you guys are doing as the season 2 contestants. You guys are like uplifting and continuing, where we are as Lego Masters, and I appreciate it, and I think I can speak for the rest of my season 1 cast family that we're just so excited for you guys. We're happy for you guys. We're tuning in every episode because we're just interested to see what you guys bring to the table and what you guys can do to elevate it. So thank you so much, guys, all of you. Seriously.
Thank you.
One of these days, whenever when outside open up, hopefully we can get season 1 and season 2 together.
So you mentioned Brick Fair.
Group photo.
You mentioned Brick Fair.
Yes.
So you might get your wish on Brick come Brick Fair. I cannot say yes. I cannot say no. This is your time. This is your season. You might see us. You might not. We might be just regular people walking by.
We wouldn't have this season without you guys.
100%. 100%.
Territory.
Yeah.
Come on. We want you there with us.
Yeah. Without season 1, there is no season 2. I mean, without some incredible builds, without some great storytelling, there is no season 2. Because if it didn't make the cut, right? If it didn't make the cut, they're not going to renew, and so we would have never had the opportunity if it wasn't for season 1. And so you guys, there's a lot of credit that you guys have to take as well. So it's not just us; it's the season 1 definitely paved the way.
I appreciate that.
You guys didn't get to do conventions because of COVID.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's true. To be fair, we had one convention. We had one, but that was it. No, but seriously, Brick Fair, Virginia. That's definitely something you're definitely going to see a good amount of us there. So we're definitely going to be there for that. So we're definitely going to hang out and take pictures, and
I might have to change scheduling.
Yeah. So listen, I'm down with the dab.
Oh no,
I'm down with
Lego
the dab.
after seasons 1 and 2 dab? No, Corey, please.
We can get a succession. Like one person started, bam,
bam.
bam.
A full line of everybody. Everybody's gonna line up, and everybody's gonna do the everybody.
I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Randall, we're gonna get you in there, man. I'm telling you. Eventually, you're gonna have to just succumb to the peer pressure.
I mean, if everybody gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm not gonna be the
you got no choice.
I'm gonna do it.
You got no choice. You got no choice. Twisting your arm, peer pressure. That's a bad thing. Peer pressure.
It can be a good thing for good causes.
That's true. That's true. Listen, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. You guys are amazing. I'm so excited watching the episodes. I can't wait for next week's episode. That Make and Shake. I want to see how things are gonna fall out. Literally, you guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. So thank you so much for joining tonight. And I just a reminder: every Wednesday we do the full spoiler of what we did. So so please come through, check it out. You guys are always welcome to come back on. If I could take me out and put 4 of you guys in so you could talk about it, I would do that. But it doesn't work like that. But thank you so much for joining tonight, though. I really appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you do.
Thanks a lot, Corey.
No problem. Take care, everybody. Good night. See ya.
Bye.